I'm Jeremy Counseller, Dean of Baylor Law School. Welcome to Counselor's Corner. Today, my guest is second-year law student Jerry Attaway. Welcome to the podcast, Jerry.
Thank you, Dean.
I have a very specific memory of you in the civil procedure course you took with me. And I don't know if you remember this, but I'm going to tell you what happened. So I am in class, and I am using an example of my best friend who was a middle school teacher, and I made a kind of snide remark that nothing will cause you to question your career choice faster than being a middle school teacher. And I happened when I said this, which I was trying to be funny, but when I said this, I looked at you and you were nodding your head up and down vigorously. And so I'd like to ask, why did you connect with that comment?
I believe at that time you also said, it's like, were you a middle school teacher? I was like, yes. And I said, mistakes were made. And so,
not by you necessarily, but the unnamed actor made some mistakes. And
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I loved working with kids, but it was, working with kids and especially teenagers. And so the kids themselves were great, and I love the content that I was teaching. But you definitely start questioning some things on certain days for sure.
Was it public school?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what grade did you teach?
I taught 8th grade U.S. history.
Okay.
And so
I think back to myself in 8th grade, and I would not have wanted to teach myself now as a teacher. And you said you taught history.
Yes, sir.
What's your favorite thing to teach? What was your favorite topic to teach?
By far the Constitution.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So your interest in the law has been around for quite some time.
Oh, yeah. Constitution, I've loved it since as far back as I can remember. My heroes growing up were founding fathers, and they were all attorneys, and they all spoke with such reverence about it. So Jefferson, Adams, my cousin Vinny, they all seem to really just enjoy the law, and I love what the Constitution means, and I love that the ideas and the principles baked into it.
Vinny is an underrated founding father, and everyone should watch that movie if they haven't. I will say that film has the best depiction of an attack on perception to show lack of credibility that I've seen filmed in a movie. How long were you a middle school teacher?
6 years.
6 years. Okay. What is it that you've got this long-standing interest in the law? What made you say, okay, now I'm going to take this big step. I'm going to leave a job that pays me, and I'm going to go to law school where we don't pay you?
Honestly, law school had always kind of been the dream. Whenever I first graduated from UNT, I actually got accepted into SMU. So luckily, other mistakes were made, and so I ended up in the right place. But I just kind of balked. I come from a blue-collar family, and so my parents always pushed education. They put a lot of emphasis on it, but I didn't really know what the next step looked like.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it was probably just at the time I wanted to go into the military, and so I was going to do that after I graduated, but then it turned out I had a heart murmur. In law school, it just kind of felt like this distant thing, and I kind of played it safe. Once I got into teaching, though, like I said, I love working with the kids, but there was always this thing nagging in the back of my head, like, when are you most excited? And it was as soon as we would get to the Constitution era. And so talking about the principles and teaching that with the kids, and I looked at myself and I said, you're being afraid, and so you just need to take the plunge. And I started looking at my birthday, and I realized I was getting a little long in the tooth, so I thought,
you're still a very young man, Jeremy.
Well, I thought if I'm going to, I'll wake up and I won't be. And so that's why I really wanted to do it. And honestly, COVID kind of put it into overdrive. And so I just figured, it made me think. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it.
Yeah. I'm curious if you're a teacher, experienced teacher. You taught for 6 years, and now you're being taught. How has that changed your perspective on what you're being taught and how you're being taught?
The one thing that I really appreciate is one, I can appreciate what the professors do. I can see the various ways that they are trying to not only guide the lesson but guide the discussion. And so in some ways, some of my classmates would be like, "How'd you know that's what they were going to say?" And it's like, real recognizes real.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is I really appreciate how much effort it takes to take such a complex topic and make it understandable. So
Yeah.
even with U.S. history, I didn't feel like it was that complex, but I really had to break it down to its various essentials. And so whenever I'm sitting in classrooms, whether it be tort, civil procedure, property, these very complex ideas, they're able to put them in ways that you can understand them. And it gives me a greater appreciation. So I would remember telling this to my classmates, I'm like, y'all don't understand how difficult that is, what they're doing. And it comes off as effortlessly because the professors have put in the work and stuff, but it's very hard work to do that and to do it effectively.
Yeah. Well, we certainly value high quality teaching around here. And just in my own experience as a teacher, I can tell when I've done exactly what you just said, made the complex simple, and then I can tell sometimes I didn't quite get it that time, and you got to go back to the drawing board and think about a different way to make the complex accessible and understandable. I want to go back to your background. You said you come from a blue-collar background. My understanding is you're a first-generation college graduate. Is that right? Law school might seem intimidating to some people, particularly if you don't have anybody in your family who graduated college, much less went to law school. So, how's your experience been as a first generation college graduate who's now going to be a lawyer and is going through law school?
The one thing that what I'm excited about is that whenever I do have kids one day is that I can help kind of guide them through it. A lot of it is, especially just kind of the way I was raised, was you need to take care of the problem. And so whatever it was, whether it was navigating, going through, figuring out LSAC or the LSAT, or even just what it means to go through the entire admissions process, it was a pretty steep learning curve. And one of the things that I have a regret about is that I didn't take advantage of what the schools offers as far as their kind of helping programs and stuff like that. So even in my undergrad, they had pre-law advising, but I was like, well, if I have questions, why don't I just research myself? And I could have probably saved myself a lot of headaches and really just a lot. I wouldn't have had to exert as much effort going through if I was just kind of humble myself a little bit and say, I need help. As far as being a first-gen law student here, it's actually been fantastic because the staff here is top-notch. Everyone does their best to make you feel welcome. And being out of school for so long, I really wanted to try to take advantage of as much as I could from law school. And so whatever's been offered, I try to go out and take advantage of it, to use it, and to, it's not weakness to ask for help. And that's been something that was hard for me to learn eventually. And so, it actually, the transition hasn't been as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was a lot of kind of self-imposed restraints.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. I'm a first-generation college grad, too. I had a similar experience going through law school, particularly, I would say, the first year. I mean, you're into your second year now, but in the first year, it's sort of what I now know is called imposter syndrome. I didn't have a word for it then, but just to say, I'm not sure I belong here, because it is difficult. Law school is challenging, and there can be that internal voice that says, yeah, you just can't do it. But the truth is, it challenges everyone, and I think what you said is exactly right. To ask for help when you need it, but also everybody here wants you to be successful, even though it's challenging. Wants you to be successful, and I think that's a really important insight that you have, is you've got to ask for help, and then you also got to know you can do it, and it helps if other people are telling you, hey, you can do this. As you know, we have 3 entering classes, one in the spring, one in the summer, and one in the fall. You started in the summer, as I recall. What's it like to be a first-term law student in the summer?
It was honestly the best thing about it is that we kind of have the run of the place. There's not as many people here, so there's no parking issues. The AC is usually cranked up, so it's nice and pleasant. The one thing that I really liked about the summer, and that I've kind of noticed the difference between summer starters and other ones, is how close-knit our group is. During orientation, a lot of the staff, just various peoples, comes to mind, Miss Sims, Dean Esprit, they told us law school is a competitive place, but care about one another. And the other thing that they told us was that our professional, and I believe you touched on this too, is your professional reputation starts now. And there's a way to win and to win right. You can be a jerk and win, and then nobody wants to work with you, or you can still win, and then people still want to work with you afterwards. And so in the summer, we only really had each other to kind of lean on. And that's the one thing that I was pleasantly surprised with law school, because I read 1L, I watched the paper chase, and I saw all of the competitiveness and that sort of stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of competitive people, but I was pleasantly surprised that we were able to be there for one another and to kind of help each other be better, and the chips fall where they may, sort of thing. And that's one thing that I've been very happy about, that I've noticed with summer starters as opposed to the others, is that we do seem to be a little bit more closer knit than some of the other larger classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the summertime is a great place to start, because it is a little lower key around here in the building. There aren't as many students in the building. And I think what you said about the summer class is true, but I also think it's true more broadly. Even if you start in one of the other classes, which are larger, you're still with a relatively small group of people, and you're going through this intense and challenging experience. And what I know, talking to Baylor lawyers, Baylor Law alumni out in the world, is that experience forms lifelong bonds.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many people out there who are still very close to the people they went to law school with, and they work with each other, they refer cases to each other, and so it's a really good feature about law school, and I think Baylor Law School in particular. You work, I think, with the Baylor University pre-law program. Am I right about that?
Yes, sir.
What do you do for the pre-law program?
Yes, sir. So it's kind of in the name there, pre-law advising. And so a lot of the students, they'll come and they'll have questions about, hey, I think I might want to go to law school. I might want to do this. And so some of the things that we offer is just kind of like a basic timetable for them, just giving them a roadmap so that they can kind of stick to.
So these are undergraduate students?
Yes, sir.
You're advising.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so for me, my primary mode is that I help draft resumes, and then I help edit personal statements and things like that. And so I was really excited for the job. A fellow classmate of mine, she worked there, and they had an opening. She's like, hey, I think you'd really like this. And what I liked was I was able to work with students again. If there's one thing I miss about teaching, it was that sort of mentor aspect of it, getting to talk to the kids and see where they wanted to be, what they wanted to do, and offer any sort of help that I could. And it's really interesting, because I'll see some of the kids that come over there. I say kids, they're the same age as my classmates, but I see some of the students over there, and they just kind of look lost. And what feels really good afterwards is whenever they look like, oh, I can do this. And it's a cool feeling. You hear some great stories, and then one of my favorite things is reading the personal statements, because I get to know them. I get to see what they actually care about. I can tell whenever they're not being 100% truthful, and that's the biggest thing I try to bring out them. I'm like, you don't have to say buzzwords. I just need you to tell me a true story. And so whenever they do, it's an amazing thing to see them light up. And then I'm like, see, you can do this. And that validation that was great for me being here in the staff here. I'm able to do it for them as well.
Yes.
It's been awesome.
The unvarnished truth is compelling.
Yes.
That's sometimes it's hard to recognize that when we grow up thinking lawyers are one thing and we're actually something different. So tell me, your second year, so plenty of time to figure this out. Do you know what you want to do with your law degree?
I'm still kind of going between two things. I know that right out of law school, my ultimate goal is a clerkship. I just feel like that's the best job
With
that
a
you
court.
could have. Yes, sir. I feel like that is.
I know you know that. I just want to make sure everybody else knows that.
Fair enough. Yeah, that to me, that just seems like the best job you could have right out of law school. You get to see how the sausage gets made in a lot of ways, and I can't think of a better job right out of law school. But big picture, I love constitutional law. I'm still trying to figure out how to make that a viable living. I've talked with some other professors. They've talked about like administrative law or something, or obviously a criminal route. The other thing that I'm really interested in is construction law. Mm-hmm. And so right before I transitioned to law school, I took a job with an asphalt company so I could work through the summer, make some extra cash. And I never would have thought in a million years I would have been interested in it, but I had opportunity to review contracts, to attend seminars about the various issues that subcontractors go through and just getting payments. So the really labyrinthine lien system that Texas imposes on them, and just so these people can get their money and stuff. And I remember reading this. It was reading just basically the complaint that somebody wrote there, and I was like, I never would have thought I was excited about that, but the issues that were kind of nested inside there about this, I don't. It was so complex, but it was something I thought, not only is this interesting, but as Texas is continuing just to build everywhere that there's a blade of grass, I feel like it's going to be something that's needed going forward to have these types of attorneys that can help those people out.
All great options. All great options. You'd be good at all of them. We have now come, Jerry, to the lightning round. Okay. Your answers must be short. What's your go-to late-night study snack during exams?
Nerd gummies.
Oh, Jerry, that's disappointing. If you could swap roles with any Baylor Law School staff or faculty member for a day, who would it be?
Probably the Civ Pro professor. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great choice. That makes up for the nerd gummies.
I was
what's a random fact you know that surprises most people when you share it?
that it is not, in fact, illegal to ride around in a car with a dome light on.
All right, I'll put a research assistant on that one. If you could have any animal as a safely domesticated pet, not a dog, not a goldfish or cat, what would you choose?
Llama.
Not bad. Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes.
What's a spot in Waco you wish others knew about? Like maybe a little place you go to?
I'm sure they do know about it, but Cameron Park, right by the river. I love walking there. I'm sure they do know it.
Great place. What's the most impulsive purchase you've ever made?
Paintball gun.
That's a good one too. That actually requires reflection.
Oh.
You've got to get the right one. It's important. What's a song that gets stuck in your head?
Rainy Day Woman by Waylon Jennings.
Good answer. If you could teleport to one place on Earth daily for lunch, where would it be?
Sicily. I don't know the
Yeah. You're like the Family Feud contestant who got 0 points on the first question, but then just racked up the points on the remaining questions. Good stuff, Jerry. Okay, I understand you may have some questions for me.
Yes, sir. First one I had was, if you had never entered the legal profession, what do you think your career would have been?
History teacher was one. I thought about that because I like history too. I think I've always been drawn to teaching. Whenever throughout my education, whether it was middle school or high school or college or law school, I've always thought that must be a pretty neat job to be able to teach. And then history was something I was interested in. So kind of put two and two together. The other job, and this is something that when I was in law school, I studied at a truck stop. I would, eat there and study there. They let me stay, they refill my coffee all the time. And these long haul truck drivers would come in there and I'd, strike up conversations with them. And I thought, man, it must be great to be a long haul truck driver. You drive the truck, you're alone with your thoughts and your music, and you get the load where it's supposed to go and it's done. You don't have to think about it anymore. And I remember there was a truck driver who was eating at the booth next to me, and he said, "What are you doing there?" I told him what I was doing, studying for law school. And I told him, I said, "I envy the long haul truck drivers." And I told him that thing I just told you. And he goes, "Kid, stay in law school." So that was the other thing that I thought about doing.
Yeah, my dad was a long haul truck driver, so
Really?
It's funny that you say that. Absolutely.
And I thought about the military as well when I was in high school. I thought about joining the military out of high school. So you and I have thought about many of the same kind of options. And my dad wasn't a long haul truck driver, but I think we come from kind of a similar background, and I thought about some of those same options along the way.
Yes, sir. I did have one more question. What was the best professional or personal bit of wisdom that you got during your clerkship?
So I clerked for Judge Ronaldo Garza on the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. I think your aspiration to be a clerk afterwards is just a fantastic one. Typically those are, as 1-year jobs. It's never going to be the highest paying job you could get right out of law school, but it's for 1 year, and the benefits it gives you over time are just incredible. You become like a child to that judge. My judge has passed away since I clerked, but I actually asked him. We were at dinner with him one time, and my co-clerk and I were with him, and I cannot remember if I asked the question or if my co-clerk asked the question, my friend Julian, and I think it was Julian, and he asked, Judge, we're a couple of young lawyers, about to get started. What advice would you give to young lawyers as they're starting out? And he said, love your spouse and love God. That was his advice. And that has always kind of stuck with me as kind of a way to anchor myself in terms of what matters, even as we might think we have sort of important or high-powered careers with the potential for one as lawyers, that it really, that's advice that's common, I think, that he would give to anybody, regardless of what their career path was or their job was. And I've never forgotten that. And sometimes students will ask me, what's the bit of advice? And I'll tell them this is what was told to me. And I can always tell a lot of times they're disappointed with that advice. Like they wanted something far more specific. Like, nah, I need something I can monetize rapidly. but I think that's something, and at the moment when he said that, I think I was kind of like, come on, give me something more specific. Give me something that I can actually take advantage of. But those are the things that, to me, keep all the other stuff in appropriate perspective. Because, if at the end of your career, even if you have a really successful career, day to day there are ups and downs. There are frustrations. There are victories. There are endless things that are rather mundane. But all of that is kept in the proper perspective if you remember kind of your why and your first principles. So for me, those are the things that I think to maintain your life in a decent place, and it's hard, but Jerry, this was great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah.